Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to our second match of the night of ESL Open Cup Asia number 223. And I hope you're ready for a matchup that I was not quite expecting. This is not going to be a Zerg versus Zerg, it's going to be a Zerg versus Protoss, because spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Golden Aura, we have our South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg. Representing himself, he just took down Creator 2-1. It is Rogue. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Italian Protoss player, usually Zerg player, but here rolling as Protoss, representing Team Basilisk. It is Reynor. Here we go. Now, if you are maybe tuning in, you're wondering what the hell's going on, or maybe if you haven't watched Reynor as of late these past couple of years, more often than not in competitive play, Reynor, if he's allowed to, he will play Protoss instead of Zerg. He does not enjoy the mirror matchup RvZ and will often avoid it if at all possible. In major premier events, we've seen Reynor play Protoss against Solar, against Dark, against Serral, against anyone, against everyone. Against all Zerg players out there. He doesn't just do this against or in online weekly, so don't misinterpret it. Don't misunderstand this. Don't think like, oh, Reynor, he's like just having fun. No, even in big premier tournaments, he does off-race his Protoss. The reason for this is he doesn't enjoy the dynamic of RvZ. RvZ is very cutthroat. I mean, most mirror matches are. One mistake and it can all be over. There's a lot of mind games and it can be very chaotic, especially against Korean Zerg players. Reynor's been struggling. We did cast Reynor versus Dark last week, and well, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and Reynor had a hard time in the semifinals of ESL Open Cup Asia. So whenever Reynor can, he will avoid the RvZ matchup, and we are going to be embracing Protoss instead. Here we go. Now, honestly, I kind of want to favor Reynor a little bit more here as Protoss. The reason why I say this, I was kind of alluding to it in the previous series at the end of it, about how the games that Creator lost against Rogue, it was Creator going for all-ins. Remember, it was Creator going for a 2-base Glaive all-in on Amphion. Likewise, on Oceanborn, Creator went for a 3-base all-in off of 66 probes, against Rogue as well. Like, there were two different forms of all-in, one on 2-base, one on 3-base, and that did struggle, and Rogue was able to survive and defend both of them quite well as well when it came to his lurker timing, his lurker setup. But Reynor, when he plays PvZ, Bappy, Reynor, one thing that he understands more than anyone is the power of Skytoss. Not saying that he's going to be rushing into Skytoss, but he is more than happy to embrace late game PvZ. He does enjoy it quite a bit from the Protoss side of things when it comes to controlling Skytoss death ball of an army. So if he can get there, he will. He's not afraid to do so at all. But getting there though is kind of the big question here, as Reynor more often than not does enjoy playing with Blink Stalkers, like +1 Blink into like 6 to 8 gateways. We'll see. We shall see. As we do see Reynor setting up for his expansion, it's going to be a Stargate opener. It's going to be Oracle first, Oracle into a third. Meanwhile, Rogue back at home, going to be droning up freely, going to be droning up happily. Getting into 3-base saturation. It's going to be on Rogue to defend against said Oracles. Lings are moving out. They get eyes on the would-be third. Well, they won't be able to stop it. Third base is thrown down. And you can see Reynor, even with his first Oracle, is going to be staying back at home a little bit longer just to make sure it's safe and sound. Rogue is dipping back in, but only 4 Lings. We can't really threaten this base. Can't really do much here, and Rogue has to back off. Just have to back off. Second Oracle has arrived. Gonna be coming together, headed towards that main. Likewise, Rogue's getting ready back at home. We have 3 queens here at the natural. We have 2 queens in the main. Spores are finishing up. The third is a little bit more exposed, but there's no saturation yet. Oh, as I say that, drones are popping out. Reynor, where are we headed? We 2 threats in that main base. But again, queens are in position, and so far Rogue, he does minimize his losses. Doesn't take anything, does get a bit of hull damage done on that Oracle. Good defense here by Rogue. Behind this, we have a Twilight Council. I do not see a Forge. Oh, I spoke too soon, as it's going to be a delayed Forge from Reynor. But not for too long. So just a slightly later Forge here from Reynor. Rogue going lair first. Interesting. Okay. Rogue going for the faster lair, delaying his Roach Warren. This could be the beginning of laying a Hydra, but there it is. Roach Warren is now going to be thrown down after the lair. Just a little bit greedier here out of Rogue, a little bit less safe. But he should be fine to get away with it. Oh, as the Oracle does take a lot of hits. One shot away from going down, we get 2 drones before backing off. Close call there from Reynor. Getting those 3 drone kills in total with this Oracle. The Oracle's back off, +1 on Blinker on the way. We spoke about this earlier about how Reynor is quite fond of utilizing Blink Stalkers in the mid-game. And I imagine this should be leading into Robo production into Colossi. Oh, I spoke too soon. Not going to be Colossi, it's going to be Storm instead, or at least Archons. Temple Archive is going to be on the way from Reynor. This is a little bit more risky here, as we are going to be heavily more reliant on things like High Templar. Less consistent as things like Colossi, but we are headed there. Meanwhile, we catch the Stalkers. The blink isn't done. Big overextension. We get 1, we get 2, we get up a 3rd Stalker as well, as Reynor did push out just before blink finished. Still on the way. Oracle dove in, and once again, without blink, we pick off another Stalker. These are expensive losses. Uh-oh. Very expensive losses here from Reynor. Recalls on cooldown. We shut down every single Stalker. That's 5 Stalkers in total. That is brutal. With that, Reynor's going to be stuck at home. 4th base is being taken. Temple Archives has completed. And there it is. Storm is being chronoed as we speak. That's going to be the splash damage that we rely on. Now, Storm is going to work quite well against the unit composition that Rogue is working with. If you remember earlier with the faster lair, I assumed it was going to be Ling Bane Hydra. We threw down the Roach Warren just for safety, but really we should be focusing on Hydra production. We have a couple of Roaches on the way just to buffer, just to support. But this does go along the lines of what we've been seeing from Rogue here today against Creator. With Rogue, he more often than not does work towards Hive Tech and Lurker Tech more than anything. He's not one to max out on Ling Bane Roach Ravager. That's just not something that we've seen from Rogue at all so far in his time returning for the military. His Hydra upgrades are on the way. There's the infestation bit. That's going to be for the Hive. That'll be for Hive Tech and Lurkers eventually. Rogue is moving out. So we are going to be pushing. Stasis Trap is set up, and is baited out by that Ling. Is going to be baited. Rogue does take a Storm here, only with his Roaches, thankfully. Not with his Hydras, but he's going to be zoned back. Forces out a Storm. We have 2 Storms remaining here for Reynor. Overcharge was popped. And we have those 2 Storms left. Now we're down to 1. Yeah, good Storm of those Lings. 3rd Storm has been spent, and that means we can push forward. Rogue breaking on through. No overcharge. There's 1 shield battery behind this. And we're breaking through the defensive line of Archons. And Reynor, he's in trouble. He's in a lot of trouble. Behind this, we have a Lurker Den on the way. We are taking up into that Lurker Tech, but we may not even need it. Rogue, he doesn't even need it as he's breaking on through. Gets off the High Templar. 1, 2 High Templar go down. We're down to a single High Templar remaining. And Lings, they're coming in to reinforce. They take down the High Templar just barely. 0 Storms left. We're going for the Immortal. And we barely do get it. Oh, never mind. It barely escapes. Barely does back off. 2 more Immortals on the way. We're making 2 at a time. And Reynor, he's holding. He's holding onto his natural in 3rd, but I can't say the same about his 4th. As we are bleeding out probes, bleeding out the base. The Nexus should fall. Yeah, we're just buying time. Dancing with the army, and that's going to be a kill on the 4th base. It does go down. From here, Rogue is going to rotate around. He doesn't have to commit. All he has to do is contain Reynor to 3 bases while the Hive is finishing. With the completion of this Hive, we should be able to go into our Hive Tech upgrades, into Seismic Spines, into Adaptive Talons. Again, this is all quite similar to what we've seen against Creator already. And Rogue is in the driver's seat. We can see Reynor still struggling to catch back up. He has been wounded quite heavily here. He does have a solid Immortal count, But the reality is that Reynor can't push. The reality is that if Reynor ever pushes onto creep, he's going to get surrounded, he's going to be cleaned up. There's no way for him to do so, he's stuck at home. He's just stuck at home, building up his 4th base once again, and that means that Rogue is free to max out. He's free to max out to spread creep, take more bases as he is doing, and to push into this 4th again for a 2nd time. Now, the push into the 4th is not going to be easy, but Rogue is going to be maxed, and he's going to have a bank to work with as well. There are those upgrades, again, Scientific Spines, we have +3, we have Adrenal on the way as well for Rogue. Plenty of upgrades on the horizon. How many lurkers do we have? We are up to 9. 9 lurkers are up and running. And Reynor, Rogue, he's going to be up, what, almost 70 supply. Now, thankfully, Reynor's going to have a lot of storms. He has 7 High Templar, each soon to have 1 storm. Each with at least 1 storm at this point. Reynor trying to go for a backstab with the Warp Prism. And we'll see if Rogue does try to break this position as he has maxed. Reynor setting up his Warp Prism. More lurkers on the way. Looks like we're just waiting for our upgrades. Lurker range has completed. Adrenal is finishing up as well. And Rogue is pushing in. Rogue is pushing in. And with lurker range, he can just zone away those High Templar as well. Yeah, massive spine shots going off. Cannons are falling. At the same time, Lings, they try to bust in behind the army into the natural. So we'll be able to have 2 zoning storms. We have plenty of storms behind this. Lings, they threaten another run by from behind. Side defense is going down. The Lings, they get thrown away. Not a bad trade there by Reynor. Cleans up all the Lings. He has to give up on the 4th. You can see here he's just being zoned away. And Reynor, he may even just have to go for an all-in. Just go for a base trade across the map. Just push. He did think about it. As he's holding his ground, expanding here towards the left-hand side. A very wide open base here on the low ground. We'll see if he can get away with it. As lurkers are pushing in. And they clear out the pylon. Oh. Takes down the pylon. Lurkers leapfrogging forward. And again, without a 4th base, Reynor, he just can't sustain himself. Does get a juicy storm on the army. 1 storm does go off. Rogue, looking at his vision, he has yet to determine the base has been taken. Should have an idea. Splash just going off once again on the army. It has zoning Reynor away. Rogue, he has the high ground. He's trying to force his way in towards that natural. Splash just going off. 2 lurkers go down. Bit of an overextension by Rogue. And as these armies dance with each other, Reynor, he's getting the base. He's getting saturated. He's getting his 4th. He's getting his 4th. Ooh, once again, another storm does go up. Good connections here. The lurkers, they're getting low. 2 lurkers go down from the storm. 3 lurkers go down. Yeah, we're just taking the storms to the face. Despite having adapted talons, Rogue, he's not pulling back. But we have 14 more lurkers in production. Oh my god. That's a lot of lunkers. Rogue, he's just trying to brute force his way in. Like, again, there's no finesse here. There's no, like, counter micro, like, unburrowing and pulling back or anything like that. We're just forcing our way forward. More lurkers have arrived. We take the storms to the face, but we're running out of storms. That's it. No more High Templar. No more storms. We're trying to push in. We get us around. And can we break through? And despite the high lurker count, it looks like Reynor, he will clean this up. We're down to 3 lurkers, we're down to 2, we're down to 0. Reynor cleans this up, but at what cost? Remember, Rogue has the better economy, he has the bank to work with, Rogue is remaxing. And this trade, this engagement, costs Reynor every single High Templar, which means, as Rogue is remaxing with Ling Hydra, there's no storm. There are 0 storms left. Oh, High Templar were just morphed in, they need time. High Templar, they need time. They don't have any storms available, and they're going down one after the other. There's 1 High Templar remaining, and we just go straight for the 4th base. The Remax does catch Reynor with his pants down. Again, without storms, we cannot contest against this. The base will fall. We clean up every single probe. And once again, we contain Reynor to 3 bases. You can see him recognizing that he needs those High Templar. He needs that storm energy. but he's just perpetually contained and stuck here. GG gets called, the writing is on the wall, and Rogue takes game number 1. GG. GG, well played. And a big shout out to Sort of in the chat. Ga, papi, ga. Thank you so much for the raid. Thank you so much for the support of 69 viewers. Oh my, 69, papi. Thank you. Hope you had a great stream. Hope you had a great ladder session. Welcome everyone from Sort of Stream. Hope you all had a great time there. And if you are tuning in now, we are in our second series of the tournament of ESL Open Cup Asia. This is a weekly open tournament. A weekly open tournament here to all people of the world. It is of course favored towards Koreans when it comes to the time zone, the time slot. Time slot is more Korean favored, and of course it's played out on the Korean server as well. There is a variation of this for every region. We have ESL Open Cup Asia, ESL Open Cup Americas, and ESL Open Cup Europe as well. And yeah, we're fortunate enough to have Reynor competing here as well, as Reynor is currently residing in Korea. He does plan to compete in GSL in the upcoming season. And he is on the Korean arc. He's on that kind of he's in the middle of that training montage, building up and getting ready for the next season of GSL. And he's still building up. He's still looking to improve. And here we go. We're getting ready for game number 2. It's going to be on Dynasty. And okay, Reynor, upon taking the loss in game number 1, he's going to be pivoting away from Protoss. And now we do have a mirror matchup. Now we have a ZvZ. Here we go. Here we go. We're getting into that Zerg versus Zerg. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Dynasty, we have our South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg, representing himself, currently teamless, but leading the series 1-0, flexing his skill here, showing that he is not one to take lightly the ex-military Zerg player. It is Rogue. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the red Zerg player representing Team Basilisk, now rolling his main race, no longer his off race. It is Reynor. Oh boy, and we haven't seen too many ZvZs on Dynasty. This is going to be an interesting dynamic, as we do have the free pocket goal base, and you can actually take this early on, as opposed to how you would be deterred from expanding here on other matchups. Basically, Zerg players against Protoss Terran typically take this goal base as a 3rd or a 4th. They don't typically rush into this as a natural because it can be abused quite easily with Hellions, Reapers, Adepts, Stalkers, Oracles. Like, it's so difficult to maintain this position. But in a mirror matchup, when it takes a little bit longer to get into Roach play, this makes a lot more sense. Makes a lot more sense, as both players are going for Hatch Gas Pool standard openers. Standard opener here out of Reynor, standard opener out of Rogue, as we are selling on in. Hold on, I gotta slash shout out sort of. Give a shout out sort of. Gracias, gracias. Here we go. Now, we have yet to see too much of Rogue ZvZ. We have been able to cast Rogue relatively consistently here at ESL Open Cup Asia. We've seen Rogue against a lot of Protoss players out there, but I've yet to experience his ZvZ, so I'm excited to see what it does look like. He's going to be mainlining over towards that goal base. What I will say is that ZvZ has changed the least over time, the least over the years, so this should be like riding a bike, more so than the other matchups. Rogue should be very familiar and should be in good form to face off against Reynor. Should be. As both players have main arted over, they're both going to be saturating that gold. Link speed is on the way. And the question becomes, do we commit here to Ling Bane aggression? How hard do we commit if we do? Especially considering that this natural base is so safe and secure, you can't actually punish this natural with Ling Bane too heavily. Even the 3rd base with this choke point, it's going to be difficult to really get too much done, as Queens can just naturally be in position to help support. I would not be opposed to Roach play as Rogue. He's going for a hidden Evo chamber behind the mineral line. Interesting choice. I'm curious if this is going to be +1 carapace or +1 melee. I'm leaning along the lines of carapace. I'm trying to remember, was Rogue active back when the +1 carapace laying Roach all in was prevalent in ZVZ? That was like a couple of years ago. I think that was 2021. I'm curious. And there it is. Yep, carapace. It's like it's COVID again. If you were an active viewer back in the day, then you would remember this build. It was very, very prevalent. It was back in the, I think it was in the Neo Humanity map pool. I want to say Neo Humanity. We still saw this build. Maybe the map pool before Neo Humanity. But yeah, not too long, like 2 years ago essentially. And yeah, this can hit quite hard. It's going to be +1 carapace and the Roach Warren. Basically, the carapace is quite beefy, or it does support both your lings and your roaches quite heavily here. And you can make this, or you can use this to snowball out of control to break through the offensive line of your opponent to go for this all in. Reynor is investing into Bailings. Did make a Bailing across the map. He's going to be flooding his lings as well. Yeah, and you can see that Rogue, he's cut workers. He's cutting workers here at 29. 29 joins is all he has. The Bailing's under fire. Ooh, and it will survive. Oh, oh, just barely. Good control out of Reynor. Does keep it alive. Does zone Rogue back. And Reynor, he does gain ground, but Reynor, he's droning up behind this. He's droning up to 40. Ay, ay, ay. Again, Rogue is all in completely. And Reynor has no idea. Remember, Reynor, he never saw the Evo chamber. Never saw the upgrade. Roaches have been revealed. Now he knows. Now Reynor knows what's going on. Bailings are on the way. Do we have a Roach Warren? We do have a Roach Warren. Roaches are now in production. No, another wave of drones. Oh, God. Bailing gets baited out. Reynor going to go down to 1. Bailing Spine Crawler is now on the way, but it may be too late. As here comes the all-in. Rogue pushing towards that gold base first, denying mining time. It does deny mining. But this is going to give time for these Spine Crawlers to finish. As Rogue does rotate back around. We can resaturate that gold. Spine Crawlers are about to finish. The Queens have come together as well. And can Rogue pull this off? +1 carapace, it is done. Now again, because of +1 carapace, we can take a Bailing shot to the face with Lynx. Does support the roaches as well. As we do see Reynor, is going to be forced back. Does bleed out a couple of Lings. But he's going for the surround. He tries to. Get the Spine Crawler adding so much there. And Rogue, he's now droning. He's doing well for himself, denying mining here at the gold base. Droning up behind this. It looks like upon seeing this wall of Spine Crawlers, he knows he cannot break this. So Rogue is backing off. But he invested quite heavily here into this army. That's a lot of supply. That's a lot of resources invested. And he's not doing anything with it. He can't do anything with it. Outside of denying mining time. Which is pretty big. So Rogue, he's just droning up as hard as he can. Lair is halfway done. Meanwhile, Reynor, he has the upgrade lead. Working on +2, working on the Spire for mutas. And Rogue has yet to scout that Spire. Again, part of me feels like if Rogue had ignored the gold base, if he had gone straight for the natural instead and gotten here before the spines had finished, then maybe he breaks through, maybe he could kill, but again, a hard call to make and hard to save, and would have been close. Mutas now in production. Mutas are on the way. Rogue is going to be pulling back, knocking down these rocks. Overseer comes in, and we get a scout. It's a late scout as mutas, they're already revealed. And Rogue, he has to pull back, and he has so many overlords out on the map. Oh my god, the supply block, I can see it. So many overlords out in the open, they're going to be shut down. As Rogue does retreat. Now we have the Hydrogen, Spore Crawlers as well, but this is a good trades, good pickups here from Reynor. 2, 3, 4, 5 overlords, maybe even 6. Big supply book for Rogue. And he can't push in. Reynor, he's ready for it. He's ready for the push. He's ready for any kind of aggression here at his third. As more overlords going down. Oh my, I'm afraid to look how many overlords have gone down so far. 7. 7, 8 overlords going down. A 9th, a 10th overlord going to be going down as well. Oh my god. Rogue, he's still supply blocked, by the way. He's still not breaking out of it. So much damage, so much value. You pick off a drone. Not bad. Mutas rotate around. Reynor trying to take another base. As Rogue will pull back. Reynor does take the supply lead. And Hydra's now on the way, but they still need more time. Still building up because of the supply block. Rogue still being very active with this harassing force of roaches. I do love that he just keeps coming back in. But this may be the last time, as Reynor can now break out. And Reynor, he has an army to respond. It is a threat in that 4th base. We do have plenty of Hydras this time to defend. And now Rogue has to make a choice. He could try to turtle and go into Lurker Tech. If Dark was here, that's what he would do. But we'll see as Reynor, he is pushing in, has a supply lead. Has an overwhelming roach count here. Baileys, they don't connect with the Hydras, but there may just be too much on the ground nonetheless. Yeah, the roaches, they're breaking on through. Reynor snowballing out of control. He's up heavily here in the army supply. And Rogue, he just has nothing left. Has nothing remaining. A handful of Hydras. They're so exposed. They're so vulnerable. And Reynor's going to snowball out of control. Forcing back the army. GG gets called and Reynor ties things up 1-1. GG. GG. I'm a little bit perplexed about the build from Rogue. Not going to lie. The biggest issue that I have with it is the build itself made sense, right? The build itself made sense when it came to the all-in that he was building up towards. The problem is that all-inning on Dynasty is so difficult just because you could see how secure that natural, that quote-unquote 3rd base was. Where it is a choke point, we had plenty there in position, we saw the army coming ahead of time. Rogue, he didn't prioritize pushing towards that base either. So Rogue just couldn't touch the base. He couldn't really do anything. He was containing his opponent, but that's all he really could do. So yeah, it was an interesting build choice specifically on Dynasty, just because you can be quite secure on a 3-base setup. Like, even though Rogue was denying mining at the gold base, he couldn't kill the 3rd. Like, he couldn't kill the gold. Couldn't kill it, couldn't apply any pressure there outside of denying mining time. Just because of the terrain, just because of the nature and the features of the map itself. So, interesting choice there on Dynasty. And now we're getting into game number 3. We're loading into Oceanborn. Let's go. We're getting into the ace match. It's once again going to be a Zerg versus Zerg. And I'm sure Rogue is going to be a lot more comfortable in a map like this. It has a much more standard layout. The 3rd base is more exposed to roach play, to roach aggression. I expect to see some form of it here in game 3. Here we go. Spawning in the top left-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have our blue Zerg player. We have our blue Zerg forced into the ace match. Can he bounce back here in this game 3? In this best of 3, it is Rogue. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the red Zerg player representing Team Basilisk. It is Reynor. Apparently, Reynor has been on fire in ZvZ. He said he was feeling dominant versus Dark, but I think Rogue is even tougher in ZvZ. That comment is a little bit outdated. If you remember, when it comes to Reynor ZvZ, that was in relation to I Am Katowice. That was in relation to I Am Katowice. If you were watching ZvZ's or if you've been watching Reynor these past like 3-4 weeks, I would say that his ZvZ is good, but it's still like, I don't know, on par with Dark. I mean, we saw Dark 2-0 Reynor earlier. Of course, GSL is going to be different, just because of the preparation that is involved in a league like GSL. But yeah, that's also why earlier I wanted to emphasize that, like, just because Reynor played Protoss earlier doesn't mean, like, you know, he's hiding builds or he wants to avoid ZvZ because he's, like, you know, trying to secure something there. He plays Protoss against everyone, like, including, like, Serral, including Dark, including Solar. He likes it, bud. He likes it. Does enjoy it. But here we go. We are settling in. And for now, it is going to be a hatch gas pool. Like, for example, I would not be surprised at all if Reynor plays Protoss in GSL. Like, I would not be surprised if he's allowed to. We'd have to go over the rules if he's allowed to, like, race switch. But if he's able to, I'm sure he will. As for now, we are settling in. We're going to be joining up again. Hatch gas pool, standard openers. I think what I find really interesting, if you've noticed over the past, I want to say 2 weeks, Reynor has stopped going for 15-15s. If you remember, for the past couple of months, even since like November, since like DreamHack Atlanta, Reynor, he was in love with 15-15s in ZvZ. We'd see it time and time again, every single game. And he's kind of been pivoting away from it as of late, which I find really interesting. It's really cool to see players' kind of playstyles change over time. How their preferences do, you know, adapt as the meta shifts as well. It's really cool to see. It is really cool to see here. From here, we're going to be pulling back. We're just getting to our third base. No one is skipping their Baneling Nest, not this time. So just standard games here out of Rogue. There's no hidden Evo chamber, no hidden tech like we saw in the previous game. Everything is looking as it should. And really the question becomes, does anyone commit to Ling Bane aggression? As I say that, 14 Lings pop out. As I said that, here we go. We have 14 Lings on the way. Reynor is going to be applying some pressure. It's moving out towards that third base. Comes down to the control of Rogue. Can he defend? Can he hold? Just have that one Baneling ready for this. The Queen is pushing in. Behind this, Reynor's droning. He's not all in. He's not committed. Up. Oof. That's it. Be very careful there with our control. Baneling almost does detonate. Oh. As again, we do dance with each other. Banelings from Reynor. They have a right as well. Good target firing on that Baneling. Does connect. But likewise, Banelings from Reynor also get shut down. And it looks like Reynor, he will get the Queen. He barely comes out on top, barely out trades Rogue, and the Queen will go down. And as the aggression ends, the dust does settle. We're droning. We're droning up behind this. Rogue does have a worker lead, but Rogue also lost the Queen, so that is going to impact his overall larva, his income, his production. Roach warrants have been thrown down, and Rogue is going for his own counterattack. He's going for the third. Can he get the drone? Oh, the drone is exposed, and it looks like it will go down. He gets one. He gets two. Two drones, two pickoffs. Well done there by Rogue. Rogue, he maintains his economic lead. And Reynor, he is droning up desperately behind this. 10 more workers on the way. He's moving out with these roaches, but this is just posturing. Basically, we're revealing these roaches to the Overlord specifically, making it look like we're pushing, when really, Reynor is droning. So you can see here Reynor pulling back. So we speak about this all the time, but in ZvZ, vision is a resource you can use against your opponent. Because Overlords allow you to see everything, sometimes things can be, or looks can be deceiving. And that's a big part of ZvZ, is trying to force your opponent not to drone. Trying to force units out of your opponent as well. So there is that kind of like back and forth posturing that you do have. Rogue behind this, taking gases, going for a Spire at his natural. Interesting. Saw how well Mutas did do for Reynor earlier in game number 2. We'll see if this goes unscattered. Reynor, he's droning up to 48. He's not saturating his third base. Bear that in mind. Making more roaches. He's pushing. He's banking up his roaches in the natural base. He's going for a 2 base all in, or I should say 2.5 base all in. Oh boy, very committed here. Rogue, he might be tempted to bank up resources for that Spire. He droned up to 63. Too many drones. Too many workers. Too many drones. He has droned. And Reynor's all in. And Rogue is getting caught with his pants down. Here comes the push. And now Rogue realizes what's going on. And it may be too late. We have Spine Callers on the way, but this space is much more open. Remember, compared to Dynasty, Dynasty a much more choked up, narrow entry point into the third. Here, you can attack from multiple angles. Here, there's no saving it. This third is so wide open, which is why aggression and all-ins are a lot more favorable on Oceanborn. And here comes Reynor. Reynor, he is pushing in, does have a 20 supply lead. Ravagers, they get surrounded. They're going down one after the other. And Reynor, again, he catches Rogue with his pants down. The Spines, and they're not done in time. They're not ready yet. The Spire finishes, but we cannot make use of it. The mutants are too little too late. GG gets called, and Reynor, he will take the series 2-1, advancing on to the next round. GG. GG, well played. Again, the third base or Oceanborn in general, there's a reason why we see a lot of 3-base all-ins on this map. Because of third base, it isn't just that it's wide open, but there's no high ground. There's no high ground advantage like you have on other maps. There's no point of elevation that you can make use of on the right-hand side. So aggression is favored here, and Rogue was unable to determine the saturation. Winding it back a little bit, talking about the scouting of Rogue, basically, it's so important in ZvZ to get eyes on the third base specifically and on the saturation. Rogue, he did not check the third. If he did, he would have seen the lack of drones, the lack of gas, lack of workers. That would have been a tell that there was an all-in coming. But alas, Rogue did not check. Rogue gets caught out. GG, congratulations to Reynor. GG, well played. Congratulations here, as Reynor will take the 2-1, will advance on into the next round, and the question becomes, who does he play against? Who is he up against next? Let's find out. Exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the back yourselves. Let me just quickly update our lovely admin.